Do you have old emotions that keep coming to the surface? A lot of us do. So a lot of us just have these emotions that just keep popping up randomly out of nowhere. And then a lot of us work on ourselves and then we think everything is healed. You hear that a lot with people who do work on themselves. Like, I thought I healed that part and all of a sudden I guess I didn't. And then all these things keep coming to the surface, right? Well, here's something pretty cool. You actually did heal that part of yourself. It is healed, but your brain is so conditioned to going to that moment because you have trained it throughout years and years, and your traumas and all your stuff, you have trained to go back into the memory bank, and so your brain just automatically goes there. It's a clear path. So I'll give you an example. You're walking down in the forest and you're walking down those paths. So have you ever seen a path in a forest that's completely cleared out? There's no trees that grow there anymore. There's not really grass, a couple of weeds, and that's it. And it's a very clear path. So that's the brain. That's the path that we take. Since you're a kid, you've been walking down that path, walking and walking. So now there's no trees. It's perfectly clear. That's the same as the neural network in our brain. But at the end of that path, picture an old abandoned cabin and there's nothing there. It is completely like, at the end of that path, there's some pretty rotten people. They're not very kind. There's a lot of crap at the end of that path. It's like in your brain. You keep going down the same path, and at the end of that path, you never feel good. Every time you think of that thought, you're like, oh man, it's always negative. And all of a sudden you get back into your past and you're like, I thought I healed it. All of a sudden you lashed out at someone. That's the same as this main path. There is a possibility to create new paths in your brain, okay? So you guys can check out Joe Dispenza's work. He does a lot of work on this, of how to create a new neural network and new paths, because it is not easy, but it's possible, okay? So picture yourself saying, I want to create a new path. And at the end of that path, I'm going to have happiness and peace and love and friendships and just bliss, and anything that you want at the end of that path is right there. Same as in the forest. So at the end of this path, you have a beautiful sunrise and you have a beach, and all of a sudden you can go there and you have all of your friends are at the beach and you have these loving people and everybody is all positive and it's all this greatness at the end of that path. But the thing is, to create a new path in the forest, what do you have to do? You have to cut down some trees. You have to clear out the path, chop up some wood. You have to work really hard on creating a new path. And then what happens? It rains. And then all of a sudden, as it rains, the trees start to grow again. And then you got to re-clean the path. And then it snows. And then you got to clean out the snow and clean the path. So it's not easy. You can't just, oh, I'm going to walk through the trees to create it. No, you got to clean this path. Okay. Now, after cleaning this path, just like in your brain, you have to clear out a path. So in your brain, what you would do is you try to rewire this focus. You're like, I want to put my focus on this. I no longer want to go into my past, into the trauma. I want to go into this. I want to take that one on that side. So what do? You work on yourself. You go see therapists, psychologists, you coach yourself, you try to meditate, you do all these self-loving activities and all this. And what happens is that we have a tendency to go down this path, and we're doing it because a lot of us are. I think 2021, a lot of us are going down this great new manifestation, realization path, right? And then what happens? While we're on that path, something arises, like a snowstorm, and all of a sudden the whole path is covered. You just cleaned it. You just worked on it. You're like, oh my God, it's completely covered. Same thing happens in our life. So we're walking down this path, and all of a sudden, all this negative, something happens, a trauma, a death, like something so crazy that happens to your life. And then what do we have a tendency of doing? You know what? I'm not cleaning this path. I'm going to go down that main one because it's very easy. So we have a tendency, we'll rather walk back, reverse our steps. You would go back onto the main path because it's the easy path. If you stop going down that path, okay, you have to create like a blockade to go down that bad memory lane. Because a memory is just your perception of what happened, and it's feelings that you created about the perception of what happened. Something happened in your past, very traumatic. You created an emotion from it. It could be somebody else's different reality, but that's the reality you have, and it happened, and it means something, but it's in the past, right? So if you've dealt with it already, and you worked on it, and you brought it to the surface, and it just keeps popping up, it's because it's still right there. It's never going to go away. that trauma will always be on that path. You have to decide, do you want to take that path? Do you want to continue going down that road? So you have to put a block, okay? I'll tell you guys how to do that in a second. So you're going to keep trying to go down this path. Instead of stop and say, I'm going to go down here, you have to literally say stop. Some people use the word stop. You can literally put a block. You can say something to yourself, stop. So if you find yourself going down an emotion, I'll give you an example for myself, because everybody does this. Even the highest psychologists and everybody. Joe Dispenza himself says that he still does this, and he still has to tell himself to stop, regardless of what he's feeling, okay? So I'll give you an example of me. Something happened and I have some emotional trauma of relationships, and I was in my emotion, and all of a sudden I went back to a memory of when this so-and-so happened and I was feeling the same way. And then all of a sudden I got back to this, I just got to get out of here, the fight or flight thing. And all of a sudden I got into my thoughts, because it was just everything. A thought creates an emotion, okay? You're having this thought, and I'm having this thought, I'm going back in my past. What did I do? Right away I say stop. This is the word that works for me. I say stop. Stop. So I literally have to stop myself to not go into that, because it is no longer needed. I have healed it. I know why I felt that way. I know why it happened. I'm grateful for what happened. So I cannot relive that. If you stop using that and you keep telling yourself to stop on that specific emotion, that old path, eventually trees will start to grow. Nobody's walking on it. There's no more. So just like the brain, it just starts to disconnect. All your emotions, everything is gonna. So as soon as you have a thought, you'll no longer go back to the old patterns, that old path. Okay? Now, after saying all this, it is a process. I must tell you, I've worked on it. I know hundreds of people that have worked on it, thousands of people that have worked on this. And personally, talking to a lot of them, it is quite a process to do. And it's not easy, and you have your ups and downs. But what I've learned myself is going down this new road, to have patience for yourself and for your life is the number one thing that is needed. So if you're going down the new path, and you tell yourself to stop, and you notice one day you're saying stop a little like more often because you thought you dealt with those emotions and you keep coming up, it's okay. What would you do if it was huge snowfall in that new path? What would you do the day that you're tired? Take a rest, have a hot cup of hot chocolate, relax there, set yourself up and nice, and okay, I'm going to take a break. Take some deep breaths. Either this afternoon or tomorrow, I will keep shoveling the snow and I will keep going. That's the key. You have to be patient with yourself and create bonds with other people that are like-minded, that can help you redirect you into that path. So I hope this helped, and I will do another video on more ways how to go really into that path, and meditations, and I'll give you guys links and stuff like that. And I really hope this helped.